It usually starts before it shows me it's starting, so we're probably live right now.
This is cool.
It is so cool. I'm so proud of myself for even figuring
How are you going to teach me?
All right, it looks like we are live. So welcome everyone to our Empowered Women's Call. It is the 16th of July 2019 if you are watching this back. I've got one of my favorite people in the world, someone who has contributed greatly to my life transformation and my growth as a woman. So thank you so much, Linda, for joining us today. You're someone who I am immensely grateful for every day in my life. And yeah, I'm excited about today's topic actually, because it's something that I'm becoming increasingly aware of and increasingly passionate about embracing for my own life and empowering other women around as well. Now, disclaimer, it's also a topic that seems to spark a lot of passionate debate and discussion. So I just want everyone to know that Linda and I are just going to be sharing our own stories and our own perspectives. We're not saying this is fact or that this will be the exact experience for you or should be. If it doesn't resonate with you, then that is totally cool. We're certainly not going to have a debate about masculine and feminine. We're just simply going to be sharing our stories and how we felt more empowered as women through just embracing specific energies and also just different things that we do in our daily life that contribute to us showing up as our best selves as business owners, as wives, as mothers, as friends, and all of the crazy hats that we get to wear all in one day, and how we can center ourselves and ground ourselves in a world where we have to be absolutely everything. So just to set the scene, you know, I really truly believe that in today's world, a woman really can, and we've been taught that we can't, but we can embrace our intelligence, our ambitions, our strength, our personal power, and we can be all of these things, but we can do it with grace and humility. And I feel that we are more powerful when we do come from that energy in that space. And we can also conserve our energy better when we really know how to go between the energies each and every day. And that, you know, for me, if I look at my personal story, I dulled my shine for so many years and it caused so much discontentment in my life personally. And as women, we really don't have to do that anymore. We're living in a time where we have endless possibility and we really can create whatever life that we want. And to me, that equals freedom. Yeah. And so when you come to a place of freedom where you are in great rapport with yourself and you are confident in your personal power and you're in creation is actually a feminine energy. Yeah. So, you know, we are really, I feel blessed to be a woman, certainly. And I just have never felt more happy and free since I've embraced those qualities. So maybe you can share, Linda, by sharing your story, because we both have been in hustle mode and building business mode and, you know, feel like we're losing our mind mode. And and I think we've both kind of done a 180 of, you know, coming back to our best self whilst being able to do what we're passionate about. So maybe, I don't know if you want to start there.
Yeah, I guess, you know, when I first came across the concept of masculine and feminine essence or energy, let's call it that. I grew up, I guess, like a lot of girls, especially in Australia, in you know, I'm 44. And when I look at growing up, you know, the belief that I took on was to be strong and to be successful was to be, you know, really kick ass and to kind of achieve and force and control and be at the top of your game. And so that was the role that I took on. And I remember a seminar that I was at, and I was probably at the top of my game in corporate at that time. And I never wanted to admit it, but there was always this little sort of heart squeeze of, and actually I look back on it and it was fear. And I, you know, I never wanted to recognize fear. Achievers call it stress, right? As I would walk into this building each morning ready for like game time, that part of me would have to kind of, I would look back on it as manning up. I'd have to like, right, it's game time, it's go time. And I would put on almost this protective layer, this armor of how I had to be. And so what I recognized when I first attended this seminar and they were talking about, masculine and feminine energies, everything at that time in my life, in my early 20s, feminine to me equaled weak. Feminine equaled being walked over. It means, to me, it was be girly, be taken advantage of. Like I had such disempowering, really poor, sad beliefs around what it was to be feminine. And in fact, I remember thinking that feminine women were just, I felt sorry for them, the girly girls. I thought that they were annoying, just get to the point, and she just wants attention. So I had a very strong mean girl, in my head. So I thought the safe way was to be the mean girl and just kind of, get stuff done and force through. And so I'm compassionate to myself because I get that model got me far. It really helped me step into the highest values at that time, was to super achieve and then I'll be loved. So we've all got that common fear of not being enough. And if we're not enough, then we won't be loved. And then we might as well just kind of die. So the pattern that ran my show back then was, if I got a great job, if I got a great income equals success, that's how I would be loved and important. And so I was so much on that track, I actually didn't even realize that other ways existed. And when that was really shaken for me, because my health gave out, my mental health is what it really was, and then physical health, I was so confronted at this one seminar, as I just literally had to see what I didn't want to see, was that every day when I stepped into this building, I was like a man. I had this shield of masculine energy, and it was forced and it was exhausting. And
can I just get you, I should have done this at the beginning as you're sharing the story. Can you just share a little bit, because I feel there's a lot of confusion, and we all have masculine and feminine traits inside of ourselves. This is not about man, woman. This is not about sexuality and what sexuality you embrace. It's about different energies, and that for example, the feminine energy is creation, the masculine energy is destruction. We have both polarities inside of ourselves, and we can cultivate either one.
Yes.
So maybe if you can say a little bit on that, just so that people...
Yeah, and without too much detail, it's kind of like this, that it's not good, bad, right or wrong. It is what it is. But it's the concept and idea, and I know this to be true for me, that when we're born, we have an emotional home. We have an energetic essence that we're born with. And we can learn patterns and behaviors and kind of create a mask. So when I was little, to keep up and be significant, we often, it's the parent or the caregiver whose love we crave the most, we aim to please. So we adapt, on how to achieve their love. For me, that was, keeping up with my brother and, seeking dad's attention. And so I created just the first, a masculine mask is what it's called. So the tomboy route. And so in everyday life, when we're thinking about it, we're 3D. We have all these parts of us. So just like you're saying, Kira, there's a time and place where masculine serves me so much. Like I can get stuff done in emergencies. I thought there was a robber here the other night. You should have seen me go, girl. Like I literally made a switch in my head and a decision of like, if he comes after my kids, that's it. God, heaven help this guy. And I just went into this mode. So thank God I had that available that I could tap into. So it's a really good point that you raise, that it all serves us, and it's about our polarity and where our emotional home is.
And the more conscious you become of them, the more you can consciously choose what one serves you in the moment. So for example, if you're having friction with your very masculine husband, being in your masculine is probably not going to serve you in that moment. Right.
Right. And the thing is, when we're under stress and fear, we often can go to masculine to fight and protect. And when two masculine men, men or in two masculine energies, it will just fight. It will butt heads. The feminine will be more vulnerable, surrender quicker and easier, not to be dominated and overpowered. So this was my distinction. Long story short, I'm watching this seminar and so much of me is going, oh my God, men are just, they're going to choose that girl with the big boobs and the gorgeous hair and, she's dancing this way. So the guy called about 50 women to the front of the stage and just said, just come up, and if you know that you are just so feminine, come and be on the stage and show us. So instantly I'm like, mean girl, oh my God, what is this? This is so lame. Oh, they're just seeking attention. And that's me in fear, right? Like, what will they do? What will other people do? So I became like that. And it just was the most powerful thing. And you know what? I just want to give people this gift. You don't have to be at this seminar to get this gift, if you will. There was 50 girls. There was very obvious ones at the front, dancing in a provocative, that being rewarded for the attention.
Well, and women are taught today that is femininity, that it's not actually based on the external. It's not about beauty and flaunting your body, but that's what we're taught in today's world.
Yes. And so I had to eat my words so much because I was assuming, oh my God, of course men, of course they're going to choose these ones at the front, who look a certain way. And my friend was next to me and we were both instantly in Mean Girl. And it was just staggering to me. It was such a gift to be in this room. And if I maybe didn't witness it myself, I may never have got the lesson learned so powerfully in that moment. And this is why this guy does this example. He asked the guys to kind of do a cheering meter for the girls, which I'm just like, this is insane. Like, now we're rated. This is ridiculous. Like, so many conflicting things going on in my mind. But it's like Jerry Springer. It's like everyone's shuffling their seat because this is so exciting. And what the hell is going to happen next? I don't know. But what happened in that moment, I will never, ever forget it. It was so beautiful for me to get this. The woman who got the resounding cheers from all the men in the room, and I say all, I mean all, I didn't notice, I didn't see, she wasn't on my radar. I could hardly freaking believe it, even though they're explaining this to me, that she was kind of just in a brown, in my mind, I'm sure she wasn't. It was like a sack, right? It was just this very plain brown dress. She was lovely to look at. She wasn't gorgeous in the standard sense. But this guy stood up and then he said, give the ladies feedback, guys. What about this woman is beautiful for you? And what the men proceeded to say it just blew me away. My jaw was on the floor along with 2,000 other women, like, wow, I was not expecting this. And they said, you know what, her energy, I could notice it and see it before she even reached the stage. She floated there. And then the next, I'm like, what? I didn't even see it. Then the next guy was like, she was dancing for herself. She was including the other women and her energy's just so light and radiant. I'm like, what? Is this scripted? And it was just so fascinating to me. And then we had our turn to do the men and the masculine, right? And we were brutal. I mean, girls, the BS meter, brutal. One guy, I've got to tell this because it's just so hilarious, one of my favorite stories. Tony says, okay, guys, if you're insanely masculine, you have to come up and see it. come up to the stage. First of all, a very truly masculine male who didn't want to give other males a gift would never run to the stage to show how masculine he is. Let's get that straight, right? So all these guys are running to the stage. It's already like, oh dear.
I'm already lost.
I know. Part of us is already cringing because we're brutal sometimes as women. And so he's doing the 𝓂𝓂𝒶𝓃𝒾𝓃𝒾𝓃𝒾𝓃𝒃 the guys. And the first two, physically and in life, they've been rewarded for how buff they've been. And their definition of masculine was to just kind of stand there and kind of be like, you know, the footy photo kind of thing. So they're doing these kind of like unsolicited poses. And the first guy, supremely confident. And there's a fine line of confident and arrogant, would you agree? And this was the perfect example of this being shown. So this guy who's used to being high on the 𝓂𝓂𝒶𝓃𝒾𝓃𝒾 usually got like two lone claps up the back out of 2,000 women. And you could see it nearly blew his head off because he just didn't know what to do. So guess what he did? He took his shirt off because he thought the girls don't get all of this. They've got to see it. Like, I've just got to take off my very loud shirt so they can see what they're actually missing. They've missed something here. So every woman just like, what would you do? You just like are cringing down in your shirt. Like, oh my God, this is a shit show. I don't know what to even do. This is hilarious. So here was my lesson, the long story short. Halfway through, same thing. There was this guy that we noticed straight away. He wasn't vying at the front. He was just there standing. He wasn't physically traditionally attractive, but he just stood there like this rock, like this incredible mountain, not physical mountain, energy mountain. Like he was just there. And then Tony did the most.
I've got shivers just thinking about it.
Know, right? So Tony then gets, you know, Mr. Physical Man Mountain, ordinary guy. He's just standing there. And yes, his posture reflects it, but it's energy across the room of 2,000 people. And he gets Mr. Energy Man to coach the most feminine energy guy that was trying to dance and be like, it's kind of like he turned into one of the girls up there, right? And it's just awkward. Women are just brutal. We're like, oh my God, he gets no claps at all. Even the men gave a few lone claps for the girls, right? He got no claps. He gets Mr. Energy Man Mountain to whisper in the other guy's ear. He said, coach him on what you're sitting here feeling and thinking. Just coach him. He whispers in the other guy's ear. He closes his eyes, and literally before this guy even opened his eyes, his energy shifted. It just went boom before he opened his eyes, and then he just came to life and just owned who he was in every sense. So what did he whisper to the guy, right? He said something along the lines of knowing exactly who you are and where you're going to go. See into her soul, see into her eyes and own her and know who she is. Take care of her, see her, feel her, own her. And I can feel myself already.
All the women right now, just their hearts are all fluttering.
And it was so weird. And it.
Don't start messaging your husbands demanding this, girls.
No.
We're going to see how they go without asking.
If we get time, we'll circle back around and
Yeah.
Because the number one thing is men don't want to be coached as like to be hairy women. We can't coach them. We can call on them in different ways. But anyway, what happened for me there was a few things. I learned that this was energy. And then I began to think about masculine men in a way that was completely different. Of, you know, when a man enters a room and you know that he's not attractive, and why has he even got your, not even like, oh my God, I want to jump his bones. It's not that. It's just like, wow, What do I notice? What do I see? What do I feel or observe? And it's this certainty, this incredible centeredness. And so it's actually rare when you really, really start looking for this. And I kind of call the mature masculine like a wise oak tree that is just solid. It's dependable. It's reliable. It's not going to take any shit. It is compassionate. It's crazy compassionate and grounded. And there's so much that and that instantly puts me into the feminine. It instantly, because our feminine energy wants to be safe. Number one overriding feeling, thought, principle is we want to feel safe. And when we feel safe, then we can be wild and in flow and creative and free to be us. So safety gives our freedom. And I mean, this just was like a total brain scramble for me. I just didn't know what to do with it because mine was almost backwards. Can't rely on a man. If it's to be, it's up to me. Independent, sisters are doing it for themselves. All of that. I didn't quite burn my bra, but I was very much about, I don't need a man. And so this was incredible. This is the part that got me, that I really wanted to become more of a student, was when he said the masculine is like a steam train. Nothing will get in its way. It absolutely knows where it's going, and you can hitch a ride, but do not get in my way. I will take care of you. I will follow you to the end of the earth. I'm not going to take your nonsense. You can hitch a ride, but this is where we're going. You can strap on, baby. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I think I actually do want to strap on to a man. I don't think I want to be the train anymore. There was this instant. So if any of you are kind of, I'm not sure where she's going, or if this is me, or if you can relate on any, that was the moment for me where I thought, oh my God, it's exhausting being the train all the time. I actually do want to be thrown over someone's shoulder and told, shut up, sit down, shut up. This is where we're going. Enough. I love you. I got you. This is what we're doing. And
when a woman can surrender to that, it's the most attractive to a masculine man. That's what's attractive. But what's really interesting is we live in a world that has made surrender and vulnerability so challenging for women. And that's where we're not embracing our feminine power. But actually, that's where our power is. And it's not surrendering to, mental, emotional, physical abuse or anything like that. It's knowing your worth and what you stand for and what your boundaries are, but being able to surrender to your femininity and being vulnerable. Like even in business, I've had to embrace the masculine, as have you, in growing our business, and I've created my own safety as an independent mum. Now I have to create my own safety so that I can be vulnerable and flexible and in flow. And the financial independence that I've created through the hustle has provided the safety for me to feel like I am in flow. Where was I going with that? I can't remember. But yeah, it's just interesting that when you can embrace all those parts of yourself, you will feel more free, you will feel more connected, you will feel more flow in your relationships, and you can consciously choose when you're in hustle masculine mode and when you come back to that surrender and vulnerability mode with the right people that you feel safe with.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And so then it becomes, how do we set up our day? Just in a practical sense. Here's why we want to be in our feminine, ladies, because we can own the world when we're in our feminine. It's our true because men will fall at their knees for us. They will die for us. They will die for us, to protect us, to serve us. And we've
got to get rid of the chip on our shoulder about that. Like, one of my favorite posts in the world was that Thailand rescue mission with all the kids that were stuck in a cave. And, there's a lot of feminist stuff, and whatever you believe in, that's great. We're not getting into that. But it was such a beautiful post about, like, they're our heroes. like a group of men rescued those boys. And if you go and watch the documentary on it, I am happy to put my hand up and say that in a million years, I would not have been able to rescue a single one of them, because I don't have that instinct, that drive, that courage, and that's physical strength. You know, we are different, and it's embracing that, not embracing our differences. And when we do that, we are stronger, rather than having a chip on our shoulder about it. It's not to say one's more valuable than the other.
No, we've got to be really clear on that. So if you know that if you're a woman watching this and you know that your emotional home, and so how do you know your emotional home? I like to think about one of my most powerful parts that I love to tap into is my 7-year-old girl. She was free. She was not worrying about what people would think. She didn't have timelines and achievements and goals to meet to be someone. She just was. She was naturally in flow. She found fun everywhere and could just be in a space where she would be lost in her own world. And when I come into that place, I can be more fun, I can be more accessible, I can be more in flow. So I'm not, flow is the opposite to force. And so for me in business, I can have so much more impact in feminine. Feminine gone
before, yeah.
Right. So feminine gone truly crazy. If I'm way too feminine, I'm floating around the house all day in 𝓀𝑒𝓃𝒃, I'm not going to get any shit done. So sometimes it's like, having a 2-hour cup of tea in the chat shop, because we can just chat, right? We can chat and chat and chat. And women, we fill up. We fill up on chatting, on being together, on collaborating, on this is why, like, you think of I just love the shopping example. I go to shop, I have no outcome. Scanlan have got a VIP sale on. So I'm going to go yesterday and I've got a loose thing about what I might actually practically need. But you know what? It's actually the process. It's going there and it's touching the fabrics and it's chatting to the girls and it's, holding things up to the mirror, and it's just getting lost in that space fills my heart. It energizes me. It brings me fun and possibilities. And sometimes I hustle just for those moments. So if I'm too feminine and floaty, that's when you can drive men mad. They don't want to be around gaggling women for too long because it just hurts their head. And why do men go shopping? For one thing, as quickly as possible, and then they have to go. So you go to the shops, you go to Pacific Fair on the weekend and you see the man chair in really smart boutiques and shops. They've got a man chair and a young boy. My son can't stand shopping so much. His legs don't work at the shops. He's always like, oh my God. He just turns into this flopping thing. Whereas Sienna, my 13-year-old, he just wants, she's happy to just fill up. And we chat and we shop and we talk and we connect. And so there's just this incredible difference between harnessing our feminine state and why we want to cultivate it more, and we can cultivate it. So these were simple tips that I learned. So when I was in corporate, I had a very masculine, pragmatic boss. And I was always trying to break the rules by having a diffuser, a candle. You weren't allowed to have that at Telstra. I was trying to make fun Freddo Friday, casual day. I was always trying to bring in fun elements, and it just drove him crazy. So even if I was asking, hi everyone, how's your weekend, in an email, he'd go, Linda, cut the fluff. There's 3 things, team, break everything into 3 parts. So I still use so much incredible pragmatic lessons that I learned from him. Spheres of influence, just how to run a meeting, how to stop the fluff, there's a time and space for me to do that, to respect everyone's time, because I work with masculine men. They're not going to stay on the line when it's the chat shop, and they have incredible value to add. So there's healthy balance and there's unhealthy balance. So if we think back to, you know, just the big long-winded story, back then I was silently dying inside because I had on such deep layers of masculine masks that my soul was just dying. So every day that I had to man up as I would go in those mirror doors to go be game on all day, James would drop me off in the morning and I would wake up in my natural state, fun, floaty, we would be playful, we would have that chemistry. He would drop me off and then he would pick me up and I would just like come storming out and be like this. I was like, you know, a ball breaker, swearing all day and just like being hard and edgy. And I was just like slaying all day. And then this weirdness would be there about what happened. And James and I never understood the framework. So the second we understood the framework, that this was energy and it was circumstantial and it was about our environment, it was about our focus. So I learned a ritual when I came home to get back to me and to take the armor off very quickly, whereas I didn't used to know that. So I would still be in this mode for hours. So now what I love to kind of embrace and really cultivate is how to switch modes quickly and easily and really ask and consciously think about which part of me is in the driver's seat right now.
And for those of you who aren't working in corporate, maybe you're a stay-at-home mum, it's relevant to being in survival mode, juggling a million things, getting your kids ready for school, feeling too exhausted to embrace your husband when he comes home from work, you know, having to cook dinner, clean, like it's that same doing, achieving, you know, sense of, you know, getting shit done.
Oh, that's a great point. It's kind of like God's funny joke that when we're under stress, we won't be in our emotional home. We'll do the opposite. So men go to feminine, which we just are like, ah. And we will often go to masculine and men will just kind of be like, oh my God. So, you know, stress and fear will bring out the protection in us and the softness in men. And often that's that feeling of, oh, this just doesn't quite feel right. And so, you know, one big thing for me was just recognizing that when there's tension in your body is one of the fastest ways to catch and realize that tension is, it can be quite masculine, protection. And when I feel the tension, that's when I'll be just like, ah. What's that thought? Okay, we're all okay. We're good. Take a breath. I can't control this is what I will remind myself. And, you know, not get on that runaway train of rigidity and control and fighting and defiance and resistance is just going to explode.
And they're the three things, women, that you do wrong in your relationships that are destroying your relationships: controlling, criticizing, and closing off. And they come as a result of stress, fear, tension, usually not because you're not giving yourself what you need, happiness to yourself, self-love, you know, all of those things that you're seeking from your partner rather than fulfilling it for yourself.
Yes. And so that's where, I mean, for me, there's lots of strategies, but for me, it's going back to my 7-year-old girl and literally asking, what do we want to do today? What will fill my cup today? And really recognizing that you know, I love playing with all personalities, because I honestly believe we've all got multiple personalities. We're all a little bit schizophrenic, and making sure it's the right one in the driver's seat. And so, you know, my kids, for instance, they want the nurturer. They want you know, a mum that's connected and present and really interested in their day. They want the softness, right? They want, you know, that free-flowing love. And if I'm in another mode of, you know, getting stuff done, let's just say the stay-at-home mum, I was not a fun stay-at-home mum, let me tell you. I was rigid and constantly felt stressed and overwhelmed and was constantly noticing what wasn't right. and so my defense in that, in overwhelm, was always rigid and quite in the masculine. And so when the kids would ask for something, I would just snap. They were constantly interrupting me. Whereas if I took the time, and I can do this easily now because I'm not under that constant stress, and let's just face it, the constant demands and interruptions and just finding life in a new identity can really weigh up. So I see a lot of women in that mode, even though it could be, and you'd love it to be the most nurturing, soft, you know, floating time of your life. It's often not, because of responsibility. So the one thing I learned is too much responsibility can really kind of, it can deaden the feminine as well. It can really, really be quite destructive.
And that's what happens, I find, when most women become mums for the first time, and this was certainly my experience, that weight of responsibility and that dramatic life change and not really knowing who I was before going into it, let alone coming on the other side of it, who am I now?
Yes.
We lose all the feminine qualities, flexibility, fun, freedom. They're the first things. We're not playful anymore. All the things that our partners were attracted to, all the things that make us feel happy,
Yes.
we lose them, and we get bogged down in responsibility and stress and strain.
Yes. And so, you know, the question becomes, because I can go back to there in a second about, I knew masculine and feminine stuff when I became a mum, but when you're under stress, you will go to fear and you will close off and you'll be tight. And so it's protection. So instead of life by design and flowing and you creating how you want life to be, we're in reaction with just keeping our head above water. So how to really catch yourself and get out of that is be the 7-year-old. That's for me, be the 7-year-old. And I name her. She's a really fun part of me. And it's so funny because my dad even tried to give her a masculine name called Jackie Woo, which is just such a weird name. I'm not sure what he was doing. But when I think about her, I explode with a huge smile on my face because she just had joy in everything. You know, when you see your kids just in total flipping out joy about nothing, they're skipping, they're running, they don't need something to make them happy. I have that part of me. And so I cultivate that and kind of plan that person for fun time with the kids. So first of all, there's Mama Bear, and she's the one when they get home, that's who they need, because they're going to be hot, bothered, hungry, like, they're going to need to vent. They're going to need to just have some space, kick off the shoes, and just be. So Mama Bear can just be the space for them, give them some nice, nourishing food, and, you know, connect with them. And then the fun part of me is more the weekend mum. She's even more specific. That's Jackie Woo, who actually will go out and play, who will be on the floor, who will be doing the activities with them that they love. So rather than me try and switch modes of masculine and feminine, I actually create personalities. I just identify them and name them. And across my days, I know when they're going to appear. So for instance, I'm in, you know, I've got a work from home business, and a key role that I play is kind of, I call it the cheerleader, that I'm cheering others on. I'm saying, you've got this, we've got this, you're incredible, let's keep going. I shine the spotlight on people's strengths. So for 15 minutes in the school pickup line, that's when I'm doing cheerleading, right, on Facebook for people. I'm just being an encourager. The minute, I'm not kidding, the minute that I'm in the line and it's 3 o'clock and it's pickup time, phone is away, or else my kids are going to kick my butt, because it's our agreement, because they need the safety and the certainty of mum is going to be available. And they never need much. I used to tell myself a story, oh my God, what do they need? They're so demanding, they're so relentless, they need all of me all the time.
And
But
husbands are the same, actually. Like, it's not just our children. Partners are the same. They don't need much, but they want that quality time and attention. And
yes,
what women do, they go to holding back, criticizing and controlling and closing off,
right.
rather than going first and being an open space where you surrender to serving them.
Yes.
And that's how you get that two-way street flowing in your relationship.
Yes, that's so true. And so that was a game changer for me, because if I'm fully present, they can barely handle it, man. I mean, after 20 minutes, they've just got to run off. They go stuff their faces, they fill up, and then it's just like, oh my God, leave me alone, mum. And off they go. Like, too many kisses, too much hugs, too much whatever. Oh, my precious little boy won't handle any more kisses from me, like that total smooch, I might eat you kind of oxytocin that I still have. He is just like done with it now. So at 3 o'clock, if I don't consciously make the switch, mama mode, cheerleader mode, and I've got to be really honest here, wifey, who is just for my husband, she knows what he loves. She knows how to serve him at the highest level. She wants to connect with him more than anything. And she feels safe and certain and loved and seen, and all those things that completely, light me up. That doesn't happen. She doesn't appear. Honestly, he's got to be patient most of the day. He can have glimpses through the day because we both work from home together, which is pretty ideal. But honestly, I'm wearing all the other hats all day. I can switch because I've practiced, but she doesn't really come out until it's getting later and later, because now we've got a teenager who doesn't go to bed until 8:45. So wifey used to like appear on the couch, and it was our snuggle connection time. We just scooch right into, our fold of the couch, and that's our time. Now it's 8:45. But that's when wifey appears. That's our time, and we protect it. It's precious. And so I know we've got busy lives and it just feels too impossible sometimes, but you can carve out these moments. Just like you said, Kira, it doesn't take a lot of time. This is not a thing of time. It's a question of energy. And energy, when you're in that energy, you can bend time. It's Einstein time. You can create the time that you need in the nooks and crannies of the day.
Having the self-work to take time for yourself as well. So it's not every morning is self-care time for me. Every morning. I don't work in that hour. I refuse to say yes to anything unless it serves me at the same level.
Yep.
But then I have the energy to give to my kids and, to the other people who are important in my life.
And you've always been really good and disciplined at that, is my observation. And when you haven't, I know that we've had this discussion, that's when you'll get wobbly. For me, I've got this consistent story of working on self-love and self-worth. A few years ago, I hit rock bottom and really had to rebuild. And what I'll notice, if hustle mode is too unhealthy, out of balance, and I go back to the default striver achiever, which is my initial programming, I'm not protecting my pink time in my schedule, then I know, one of my other unhealthy personalities appears, the martyr. And so she's just sacrifices everything for everyone. She literally says, this is my cross to bear. She loves suffering. So if the martyr appears and I start to hear those thoughts and feel that way, that no one understands, and why do I have to do everything and all that kind of stuff, it's because I haven't had the healthy pink time and my 7-year-old hasn't been nurtured. So it's very interesting when you look at when we're in an unhealthy balance, or if someone's in the driver's seat too much in one of our personalities, some habits are going to appear. And then we've got tension, then we've got conflict, then we've got suffering. And so I love, the whole framework and the energy of masculine and feminine is to think and cultivate and deliberately utilize different parts over the day that serve. So,
and I encourage to work with if you have a significant other, work them in setting up that schedule for success. You know, if your schedules aren't crossing over and working, you're not getting that time together, you have to work together to make that happen. You have to work together to make sure that you have time for your children or whatever else is important to you, to have that, you know, you need to give him his freedom. When does he get his time that you never impede on, where he gets to go and do what serves him and fills him up? And then, you know, you get gifted with that same respect at the same time. But I think, you know, it's not to say that you guys will find this magical balance all the time. It's having the awareness and consciousness that when you're feeling the tension and you're feeling out of balance, you're able to see where you need to shift the energy and what parts you need to embrace more of. There's strategic imbalance. Linda and I both have been in crazy hustle, you know, business mode where it's build for months at a time. And, you know, it's done strategically, but it does come at consequence. You know, it means that the time perhaps where you're present with others or you've got time for yourself isn't there. And, you know, it does affect parts of your lives. But if you know that there's a reasonable outcome, like for me, I wouldn't change it for the world, because now I have safety and security and financial independence. And as a result, incredible self-worth. So I get to be in my most vulnerable, surrendered feminine state now because I feel so safe to do so. So, you know, there are times where it will be out of balance. But there's things that you can still do. And I might just say, I've got a little list here of things, and then you could add to it if you've got others, Linda.
Yeah, I love that.
You can bring in, whether it's weekly or daily. The first one that women, I believe, need to bring back is fun and playfulness. I think it's the first thing we lose when we become mothers or we go out into, you know, the career-driven world. But it's our most attractive quality. And I actually like myself a lot better when I'm fun and playful as well. So for myself, it's important. And, you know, you keep talking about the 7-year-old girl. You can literally do what you did when you were 7 to bring that out, right? Like I maintain my youthfulness by doing the things I did as a kid. I do handstands, I go rollerblading, I go horse riding, I do, you know, all the things that I loved to do when I was young. I want to physically and mentally be able to sustain that for as long as possible. That's how, you know, we don't grow old because our body grows old. We grow old because we stop doing the things that we did when we were young. So bring back fun and playfulness. Maybe write something down now that you're going to do on the weekend or every day, you know, doing cartwheels with the kids. You can do that every day to bring that youthfulness back. Give yourself a day, whether it's a day a week or an hour a day, where you create your own space to fill yourself up. Whether that's a spa day, for me, it's going to the gym every day and walking on the beach. You know,
the gym was mine.
What's yours?
Teach me. I wish the gym was my peak time. The gym is like,
I love it. I genuinely love it. So I know it's not for everyone, but to me, it actually does fill me up. I know for many of you listening, you'd be like, yeah, that's a minus. Like, I'm actually not happy now. But I believe you've got to find, our bodies are designed to move, and you've got to find a way to move that nourishes your soul. And one of those, and my next tip is dance. Put on music and just dance around the house is one way to come back into your feminine and your playful side. You know, me and my girls, we dance in the morning in our pajamas because I want to also create a happy state for them to start their day on and set the tone of their day. And that's one of the quickest ways that you can do that, where you can change your state. Be spontaneous. When's the last time you have been spontaneous? I think the feminine energy, you know, for me, you know, when I think about what ultimately do I want in life and what kind of relationship and what kind of future, I want safety, but I want adventure at the same time. I want safety, but I want to be surprised. So you can create that spontaneity for yourself. I think it's really important. You know, when's the last time you got outside your comfort zone, where you felt, you know, the fear and you did it anyway, or you did something exciting and fun? One thing I do is I open my heart, stretching every single day. I believe that there is a huge connection between the flow of energy in our body and the flow of energy in terms of how we relate to others. And when we're on our phone and we're sitting at the desk, we're closing our energy off. I'll let you know, this might be TMI, but There was a time in my life where I was doing hot yoga in the morning, which I'm not an early morning exerciser. Usually I'm, you know, a little bit later or afternoon. But I would always come home with so much more sexual energy and openness from yoga. And so because my whole body was just open to receiving, because the whole hour you're just opening your heart space, right?
Good tip.
Yeah, so if you're feeling very closed off, you know, maybe your energy and physically you are closed and not in, you know, such alignment. So laying over things and opening your heart space is really important. And connecting to your sexuality as a woman is incredibly important. And I don't mean that that doesn't have to be in an overt way where you're soliciting attention and like the dances that you talked about, Linda, that's not an expression of what we're talking about, like with femininity. When you think of those women who own who they are, they're grounded in their body, but they're graceful and they radiate an energy without having to be. I'm not saying they're not loud. There are times where you and I use our voice and we're very loud, but I know for yourself and me, I can speak for both of us in saying that, you know, we really want to embrace gracefulness in our femininity and to be able to be in our space without having to shout from the rooftops. And you know, I think that is the ultimate form of being, knowing who you are and being in that feminine space. And also embracing your feelings and vulnerability, I think is really incredibly important. We are taught that, you know, we've got to be strong and on our social media, we're perfect and all of these things, but really the most inspiring, influential people are in touch with their emotions, not saying they're, you know, they're consistent, you know, emotions, not the craziness that we can get into as women, right, at certain times, right? We've all got the crazy bitch. I'm not talking about those emotions so much. It's embracing those, but knowing how to bring yourself back to resourcefulness.
Yes.
But you mentioned before, Linda, like, you know, embracing your senses, you know, when you're shopping and it's the feel of things, it's the taste of things, you know, that's a very feminine quality. Men kind of miss those things, but we bring them to being present by embracing those things and bringing them to them. You know, we slow them down when we do those things, when we taste the food that we're eating, and we talk about how we feel, you know, when they do things for us, letting them know that it feels nice. And that's a very feminine quality. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
What would I add? You know, if I look at my desk, I set it up for fun and feminine as well. I've got my hand cream, because that's something that's sensual. It's just having it here. I've got my lip gloss, you know, my little Burt's Bees thing here. I've got this cute little like glitter timer. I've got my candle here. I've got a cute little bell that says champagne, please. So it is about bringing in the fun and playful and the things that I love, you know, to call that are feminine here. The other thing is how I dress is a big part of it. So sometimes if I want to cultivate that, I will choose something. I've got this, I wore this today as an example of, like, I look like a bird of paradise, right? I've got these great big floaty, frilly sleeves on, and I can't help but feel fun in this. And so if I'm wanting to go first with the feminine, I can use the external to help the internal.
You feel like a goddess floating through the house. Like, when I've got my Camilla's on, it's like, I'm such a queen.
And so this, I've actually, in this, I feel like a wacky bird. I definitely have a goddess Camilla one as well, but this is kind of my wacky bird of paradise. I feel like I'm on Rio, the movie. This ring, for instance, that reminds me that my power is within. And so, you know, it's like talisman. It's like all the things that are external that remind you, condition the mind about who we really are. And so one thing that I didn't even know you could do, but you buy lingerie for you. Not for a service, not for a performance. You can do that too. That's an amazing choice, of course. When I started wearing different lingerie for me, well, now that's me loving me. And that's my secret for me. there's a beautiful essential oil that I love that, you know, my friend Joanne showed me that's called Lady Sclariol, and it's the feminine essence one. So even if it's not, it could be anything, because she's told me that. I feel that, and I cultivate that now, and want to think about that. And so I've also, you know, my wardrobe is set up like that. So depending on what mode, yeah, she dresses different. Like you said, her posture is different, and we access so many different. I mean, if we've got all these range of incredible emotions and energies to play with, like a radio station going up and down, we might as well be using it all. We might as well be 3D and embracing all of these parts of us. And when we put the right part of us in the right outcome for the day, and outcome is very masculine, right? So if I'm truly feminine, I don't care what's happening for the day. But if I'm thinking about it ahead of time,
feminine is just to be.
It's just to be. It's so beautiful to not be outcome driven. And it was really, I realized when I was just even a year ago, it's such a journey, and it's, I'm not sure that we ever arrive, but I remember just feeling like I couldn't sit down and just be with myself and read a magazine and a cup of tea while this tradesperson was in my house. There was a part of me that wanted to take over and say, we should be doing something. We don't want this random tradie that I'm never going to see again. We don't want him to think that we're like lazy, heaven forbid, and just like some lush lazing around the house all day reading a magazine. So I thought, who the hell is that? Who is that personality in my head who's trying to nudge me into action to impress the tradie that I'm not just here? And then I'm like, what if I am just a lush floating around my beautiful house every day drinking a cup of tea? So I think that these personalities can help you realize how to live life about more of what you want and less of what you don't want. If you don't want the hustle and the tension and the stress and the achiever mode and the control, then what part of you can we nurture, can we bring about that will have more ease and flow and creativity and possibility and flexibility? So flexibility was huge for me. I never really felt.
My daily I ams are flexibility, fun, and freedom. Like that's what I've been cultivating since I've been aware of needing to cultivate something. That's what brings me into alignment. That's what was missing when I became a mother.
That's it. I had no idea that I was such a control freak. I honestly had no clue. But all day, every day, I was trying to control everything. And that is such a life of pain, because honestly, you can't control anything. Just, we all die at some stage. That's it. That is honestly what I believe, the only thing that we can control. And so, like you said, Kira, it's what fills you up and what's your senses. So one beautiful question that one of my mentors, you know, I put my hand on my heart a lot and breathe there to slow down and just ask. Then I can ask a great question. I can tap into a higher, more grounded part of me, and I can say, what do we need right now? What do we want to do today? If we could have it be how we want, what do we want to go? I want to go and goof off. I want to go to the movies. You know, I want to take the kids to Gold Class Lion King and do something crazy. And so I will act on those things as well. So I will reward my action so I learn to do more of it. It's like dog training. We're dogs. We're our own dogs. Like, we have to ignore the bad and cultivate more of the good that you want, you know, to bring into life. Was there any questions? Did we miss any?
Everyone's just kind of been more responding, not so much with questions. But
Emily is almost permanently in active wear. Makes you feel on purpose, strong and in action. Right, there you go, setting it up. And so then if you want to get out of that mode, Jenna, and you wanted to go into a girly mode, right, at another time in life when it's appropriate, you know, with your new beau, for example, you'll choose a different mode. You'll choose a different, you you know, set of clothes.
It's a good point though, Linda, actually. Like, I actually wear active wear every day too, but I've got all my nice stuff as well. But I think it's easy as stay-at-home mums in particular, talking to you, to not brush your hair and to not, you know, the one thing that I did do consistently, I must say, because it made me feel in my feminine flow, is that whether I was leaving the house or not, I got myself in a state that I felt good about. And I actually would put more effort in, even if I was home all day on my own, I would go and put effort in, even 10 years in, to what I looked like for when my partner came home. And not because that's all that matters, but because you want to put the same level of effort in when you were at your most happiest, excited moment, either in your relationship or just for you as a person. You know, even now I can be at home all day and, you know, I get out and about, but I'm not necessarily seeing lots of people every day, but I will make myself feel good every day by putting in an effort, because I value myself, and that helps me to feel in my feminine flow.
Yeah. Yep, I love that. And I just had a question. What was it? That's loving yourself first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Right? Once I learned that was a huge missing piece for me, that I didn't have to do a service, a performance, make others happy first, that actually it all starts with me. I can't authentically give away to someone else what I don't authentically give to myself. Mm-hmm. You literally can't give from an empty cup. It has to be overflowing. And so that frees me from the whole martyrdom that I kind of grew up, which was a losing strategy for me. So, wow. Maybe we can finish up on, because this is what I love knowing and why it's so helpful for relationships, is that at any moment, energy can switch like this. And so you can capture, because it's a recipe, it's a formula, it's a chemistry, and it's a set of ingredients that you can harness and capture and rekindle at any time. So when you think about, if you and your partner are out of alignment, or even in business, let's just say there's a combination when your team is winning, when you're in momentum, when there's flow, when there's excitement, there's camaraderie, respect, there's fun. What were the ingredients? What was happening? What was the energy? What were you saying? What were you believing? What were the values at that time? So I love knowing it. Just gives me a great confidence and reassurance that at any time I can recapture the recipe. And so for me, with one of my children or my husband, James, being, you know, the number one intimate relationship, that first of all, it's me, it's the intimate relationship with myself and then James. I used to have all of that backwards. It used to be kids first, then James, then me, barely on the list. Like, I didn't even know how to do that game, to put yourself on the list. I lost at that game. So when I learned put you first, then your intimate partner, then the kids, then I really, you know, can look at, well, what does he love when I do? When I do this, he loves that because. What were the ingredients right at the start of your relationship? It's not just biochemistry. And the good news is you can recapture that. It's an energy and it's a mode, and it doesn't ever need to be lost. We can go back there in a heartbeat. And chances are, when you know, if I'm coaching and asking, you know, another woman about, you know, when you first got together, what would he say about you? What would he do that would just light you up? What do you know that he loves when you do this? And what was life like back then? What were you valuing? What were you feeling? So that polarity, when we first connect in masculine and in feminine, it's the most beautiful place, and that's where the magic happens. And so there's so many life circumstances that can pull us, you know, together. So we're clashing more, but that polarity is where the magic happens. So you can recapture it at any time. I know it's when I'm being fun. It's when I'm being flirty and playful, like you said, top of the list, playful and radiant. It's when I'm not stressed, not bogged down with the small stuff. It's when I'm being creative. It's when I'm seeing the joy in the little things in life. It's when I do this for him. It's when I say this. It's when I touch him in this way and I say this. It's an incredible combination, and it's very powerful because this is the keys to the kingdom.